Okay, welcome everyone to the Wednesday, April 29th briefing. I'll just give you I don't have a whole lot of stuff to give you today. I'll give you some updates on some numbers, and then we can jump into the order that was issued. I'm sure that many of you have now in your possession or will shortly have in your possession. So we're at 1,136 as far as confirmed tests in the county now. Sorry to report we've had 7 more deaths. We're at 48. And again, the reason that we do these in bunches is because we have to really make sure that the state and our numbers are correlating, and that there's a consensus as to what those numbers are. So in fact, I think the state posts them before we do, but it's really making sure that they're the exact numbers. Let me just go into the new order, and I'll just kind of read verbatim, what some of the information we have here, and I'll go into some more specifics as to what the thinking was and where Dr. Morrow is at this point. So the 7 Bay Area public health officers are extending the shelter-in-place order through May 31st. The next phase reflects regional progress thanks to our residents' collective action, and truly, we have come closer together from being apart in a lot of ways. It was people, watching over people and adhering to the social contract and staying apart that has really helped bend that curve. And you see people out as you're walking now, people are giving neighbors and friends and everyone else distance and wearing their mask while out in public and conducting essential services. And that is important. And a lot of the stores that are essential have stepped up, put great processes in place to separate people. Those are the types of things that needed to take place in order for us to bend that curve. We always talked about the day that there would be an easing, that it wouldn't be a flip of the switch, but a gradual opening in phases. And we are at, I'd like to say, I guess it's, phase 1.5 of this. We've moved in the direction of loosening standards. So the initial measure easing of some of the restrictions is designed to set a stage for gradual resumption of activity and prevent a rapid exponential growth of cases that could overwhelm the hospitals for a particular jurisdiction or a region. We've looked at this in a region because we have such a transient population. It's just not San Mateo alone. We are not an island. We are connected to a metropolitan area of 7 million people. And we have to be cognizant of that, and that's why the 6, health officials have acted in concert on this, and really are acting on a regional basis. Under the new orders, all construction projects will be allowed to resume as long as the project complies with the safety protocols included in the order, and they're outlined in the order. All real estate transactions will also now be able to resume, but with continued restrictions to open houses and limitations on in-person viewings. Any employee allowed to return to work at a facility can also access child care programs that can operate. Certain outdoor businesses can also begin operating again, and people can visit those businesses to perform work or obtain goods, services, or supplies. This includes wholesale and retail nurseries, landscapers, gardeners. And again, let me repeat gardeners. We had so many questions about gardeners over the last 6 weeks. And other businesses that primarily provide outdoor services as set forth in the order. So, they've got to adhere to the requirements of the order and be able to get back in business. Outdoor businesses do not include restaurants, cafes, or bars, regardless of whether they have outdoor seating or not. Now allowed residential moves and the use of certain shared outdoor recreational facilities that were previously ordered closed, like skate parks, for example, like golf courses, and other recreational activities that do not involve the sharing of equipment or physical contact. Obviously, you can't go out and play football or rugby or those things that involve physical contact, or baseball where you're sharing equipment. To the extent that there's outdoor activities that involve equipment that you don't need to share, it can be done. And along those same lines, we are opening, we have already indicated we're opening our parks, many of our parks, not all of them, on Monday, and we will have restrictions in place for them. Additionally, for beaches, for those who want to utilize the beaches to the extent that they are open, and the parking lots will not be open, the SIP order prohibits the following items on beaches: umbrellas, shade structures, tents, barbecues, grills, coolers, chairs, and hammocks. And let me just also along those same lines say that these restrictions not only apply to San Mateo County residents, but also residents of other counties who wish to travel to San Mateo County for outdoor recreation. And residents of other counties are not prohibited from entering San Mateo County for other activities allowed by this order. But this provision, which is consistent with the state order, does prohibit those living more than 10 miles from San Mateo County from traveling to San Mateo County for recreation. And beach parking lots, like I indicated, must remain closed to the public for beach access. And local authorities are encouraged to close or prohibit parking areas adjacent to beaches. So what are the indicators to assess progress, whether the total number of cases in the community are flat or decreasing, whether the number of hospitalized patients with COVID-19 is flat or decreasing, whether there is adequate supply of personal protective equipment for all healthcare workers, whether we are meeting the need for testing, especially for persons in vulnerable populations or those in high-risk settings or occupations, and whether we have the capacity to investigate all COVID-19 cases and trace all their contacts. Really, that's the contact and trace program that we talked about that we are continuing to develop. Again, the reason we're moving in this direction is because San Mateo County and the Bay Area as a whole has done a very, very good job in making sure that they adhere to the orders and really kind of sheltered in place and wore their mask when they were supposed to and maintain that social distancing when shopping. But I think the most important part of this, or one of the most important parts of the order, is really paragraph 19, and I'll read it to you because I think it is important, and I think it's illuminating as to where we may go and potentially how quickly that could be. This order shall become effective 11:59 p.m. on May 30th, 2020, and will continue to be in effect until 11:59 on May 31st, 2020, or until it is extended, rescinded, superseded, or amended in writing by the health officer. However, while this order is being extended for 4 weeks, it is being done so in its current form reluctantly. So Dr. Morrow has indicated he is doing this reluctantly. It is clear San Mateo County is moving into a different stage of this crisis, and that will require a different framework to balance many competing interests. An order based on a framework of essential and non-essential business categories was absolutely necessary and appropriate in the early stages of this crisis. If we continue to have the public's cooperation, I have great hope that COVID-19 indicators will continue to improve, and this order can be revised before May 31st, 2020, in a manner that focuses more on behavior, which includes social distancing, face masks, and washing hands, etc., and risk of disease transmission in contrast to categories of businesses, essential and non-essential. So what we've done is we've pulled back now to the floor of where the governor's orders are. We were more stringent before, but now we're pulling back to the governor's orders. And where Dr. Morrow has indicated he'd like to go is really based on a model of behavior rather than essential or non-essential businesses. However, for him to do that and make such an order, the state must first need to revise its order to allow it. So in order for the county to move, the state's going to have to move first. And while the governor has indicated the state will do so in weeks and not months, the actual date is uncertain. So modifications by the state of its order is a prerequisite for all such a change here. So we will continue to monitor that and to see if, in fact, the state does change in weeks, if things continue to decline of cases infections continue to decline, deaths continue to decline, hospitalizations continue to decline. We get our PPE inventory up, if we get testing up, if we get contact tracing in place, those would all bode well for the loosening of some of these restrictions. So, I mean, I think that's really the highlight for today. You can see the statistics, you can see the information that's already been up on the web. And with that, I'll see if there's any questions. But I did want to answer, I think we had one question here that was asked. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. So this is a follow-up to Henrietta's question from Friday. The county has spent approximately $93,000 to date on hotel rooms for first responders and staff, approximately 50 to 55 people. The hotel rooms are averaging about $100 a night per person. So with that, let's see if there's any questions.
Just a reminder for those on the line, if you'd like to ask a question, you can press the participant icon at the bottom of your screen. A window will pop up, and there's a button in the bottom right corner of that window. It's got 3 periods. If you press that button, you can click the raise your hand icon there, and we'll go ahead and unmute you. You can also enter your questions into the chat box, and looks like we have one question asking, it states, it's been reported that some gatherings of 12 children or less is allowed. Is that the case in San Mateo County?
Well, Amy.
Well, I mean, I think that's a reference to the child care guidelines. The child care guidelines, there's some specific requirements for entities that are operating child care facilities, and it's contained within the order, but they involve limiting the grouping of children to no more than 12. And I believe that might be where that's coming from. I don't know of any, there are no other Bay Area counties that are allowing gatherings of 12 or fewer children, other than within a household. And I can't imagine if you have 12 children, why you would be allowing them all to gather. But yeah, I mean, right. I'd be keeping them apart.
So we're not aware of any situation like that.
No.
Okay. And that is it. Wonderful. Okay, everyone. Really appreciate you being on. We'll be back Friday. Thanks so much.